Good day, YouTube. It is the 25th of May, 2021. And today we're working on the shop truck again. And with any luck, by the end of the video, we will have the wideband AFR gauge, air-fuel ratio gauge, installed in the shop truck. The idea of O2 sensor and wideband gauge is to be able to tune your fuel system for peak performance and peak economy. So here's the gauge itself. It's just all electronic there. It's kind of got not really an analog, but a sweep on the outside of the gauge, and then the digital readout in the middle. There would be a better example of what that will look like. And this is from wideband.com. It was an eBay purchase. If you watch my channel, you know I buy almost everything I can on eBay. And it's really just for the simple matter of I buy stuff nearly every day. And I just need to remember where I got it from. So that's why I pretty much buy it on eBay if it's available. Amazon's my second choice. Every place is just fine for buying stuff, but when you buy as much stuff as I do online, it's nice to go to one place and figure out what's coming and what's not coming and when everything's going to be here. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I can't post a link to the description. I can tell you all the information about it up front, which I'm doing, and you can go find it where you purchase your parts and stuff from. So there we go. Before we get into the wideband gauge install, there's a couple things I'm going to do with the engine as far as some fine tuning. And I was just going to do it, but I thought, you know what, there's some folks out there that might benefit from seeing this. Let me move you in just a little bit closer. So I've had the distributor out more times than I can count, working on things. We just did some performance intake manifold gaskets and whatnot on this motor very recently. And the last time I put the distributor in, and I set the timing, I'm all the way as far clockwise as I can get with the vacuum canister hitting the thermostat housing. So I need to pull the distributor out and back up a tooth so that I have a slight bit more adjustment. I got the timing set where I want it, and I was shooting for 32 degrees at about 3,000 RPM, and I got that, but I don't have any more adjustability. And I'm constantly researching and watching everybody's YouTube videos related to tuning, both ignition and carburetor, because I'm really trying to learn from everybody else's experience, and that's what a great tool YouTube is getting everybody's opinion on how to tune things. And it was suggested, depending on your engine, that 32 to 36 degrees at around 3,000 RPM is pretty good total timing. And really, you're just going to have to play with your engine and see what performs best for you. So I can't play with any more than 32 degrees because I can't spin the distributor any farther than that. So we'll get that thing changed. The next thing, I've been really trying to learn, not just to take somebody's opinion and try it, but to learn it. Thunderhead 289's got a lot of great videos. There's a number of other folks out there that have really good videos. So I've been watching everything and just creating my own opinion as to like vacuum advance on your distributor. And I think where I've come to now, and most everybody's video will tell you that, I'm going to hook it back up. Basically, I've been running without it. And there is a lot of arguments to say don't even bother hooking it up. It's really about, economy and drivability at low speeds. And I think that could be improved on my truck. So the question is, where do you hook it to? Manifold vacuum or ported vacuum. And on the right side of a Edelbrock carburetor, you get the below the throttle plates connection to the vacuum or manifold vacuum. And on the left side, as you face the carburetor over here, you get above the throttle plates are ported vacuum, which means no vacuum takes place until you open the throttle plate. So if you're setting the timing at an idle, which some people do that, then you would want to disconnect the vacuum line, especially if you're on manifold vacuum. But the push is, no, just hook it to ported vacuum, and you still may wish to disconnect the vacuum line when you're setting your timing if you're doing your timing adjustments above an idle, which I do. So I have a setback timing light. I set it for 32 degrees before top dead center. I have my balancer marked with 0, and then I rev the engine to about 3,000 RPM, and I should line up to my 0 mark. And then the last time I set the timing here the other day, that's exactly where I landed. And this really starting to dial this thing in. I'm going to go on and on here a little bit. So anyway, what we're going to do is hook it back to ported vacuum. I've had it there many times, but I've had other issues. The other thing I did when I was driving the truck this weekend, and I didn't do a video on it or anything, I thought, well, the guy I bought this truck from had set this engine in here, and he had a lot of issues getting it running. So I don't know if this engine ever ran in the previous owner's hands or not. I just simply don't know. But I had some stuff to sort out, which if you see my other videos, you know that. I've pulled a couple of plugs out on the passenger side over time to kind of see how they were burning, and they were pretty sooty. So I knew I had rich condition, but on the other hand, it hadn't left the shop yet, so it was on choke, and I had issues and all kinds of stuff. When I was driving it this weekend, I thought, I'm really starting to dial this in. It's running really good, but once in a while it would just like miss, just stutter. And I go, man, that's just like a spark plug not hitting or something. Pretty dramatic, actually. So I thought, you know what? I know the guy put plugs in it, and they were Autolite 45s. I'm going to go get a set of NGK plugs, and let's just change them out, because I hadn't had them all out anyway. So I went and got a set of NGKs. I set them up here, gapped them all at the loose 35 thousandths, and started changing them out. Did the whole passenger side, and they actually had burned pretty clean. So they went from sooty being in the shop here messing around to actually burning pretty good. I was liking what I was seeing, and they were all pretty even. So I go, well, this may be a pretty decent engine, because remember, I don't know anything about this motor. But when I come over here to the driver's side, I realized the gap on the ones on the driver's side were small. In fact, my gapping tool starts at like 10 thousandths, and I couldn't even get most of them to start at 10 thousandths. That's how small they were. So I thought, well, here again, Glenn, you didn't even start back to basics and take out everything the previous owner had done, and start over. At least put my eyes on it, make sure everything was correct. As simple as just spark plug gap. So I just pulled them all out. They were still burning pretty clean, ran surprisingly well for a smaller gap, and I put all new NGK plugs back in, and then took it for a drive, and it is a much smoother, much happier engine now. And does it perform a little better? Yeah, of course it does, but it's not night and day. So I was surprised that it ran as good as it did with as small a gap as it had. So it's got fresh NGKs in it. They're all gapped at a loose 35. I don't think there's any benefit to going bigger or smaller. This is where they're recommended is 35. I just gapped them 35 to 36, something like that. Very, very happy with that. So really starting to dial this in. I'm getting very, very happy with how it's running. And now it's time to really focus on the fine tuning and make this thing really, really perform. And I don't know why that on the highway I can't get somewhere between 15 and 20 miles to the gallon. I'd be surprised if it got better than that, but it's got a 370 gear in it. I think gear ratio wise it's probably right where it needs to be. So let's quit rambling. Let's pull that distributor out, get it set back up a tooth, get the timing reset, hook up to ported vacuum, and we'll move on. All right, we'll pop the cap off. Get it out of the way. I've looked at a lot of videos and people pulling their distributors, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody use a distributor wrench. And I've had this thing since I was a teenager. I've had this thing 40 plus years. One of the first tools I ever bought. But pretty darn handy for getting that bolt in there. I'm just surprised that not so many other people use that. You can put it on a ratchet and whatever. I don't know. I just think they're just handy as heck, and I'm surprised that not more folks use them. Take the clamp off. So I'm trying to go this way with the distributor, right? So I need to go, the distributor wants to go clockwise to advance it, and I need more advance. So I need to go counterclockwise with the rotor to accomplish that. So go out just so I can turn the rotor one tooth. And I'm going to have to rotate the crank. To get that to drop, guess I could have that steady. So you're trying to line up the gear on the cam with the oil pump drive. And to do that, you got to rotate the engine a little bit. Put the clamp back in it. And that should give me enough adjustment now to go beyond 32 degrees. Back that up a little bit so it'll start. This is just a new inexpensive stock replacement distributor with a Pertronix electronic conversion in it. There we go. Now we're not going to tighten the distributor, but we're just going to snug it up so it doesn't walk on us there. All right, let me set up and let's set that timing. Here's a couple different dial back timing lights. This one I really prefer because it has a tachometer built into it. So when you're revving the engine and you're trying to get your total timing at 2,500 or 3,000 RPM, you can see here what your RPM is. You can basically do this by yourself. This one here is dial back timing light, but if I could quit knocking over the camera. So you can basically set your 30 degrees like that, but you'll have to have a pretty good idea where your RPM is because this doesn't have a tack on it. So I don't really find that I use this like at all because this one is so much more convenient. So let's this one's plugged in, ready to go. Let's fire it up and set the timing. Tell by the starter that timing's just a little fast. All right, this is unbelievably hard to show you to get the camera angle and enough light and the strobe. You can see there's two yellow lines, okay? The one on the right I had marked at 10 degrees before top dead center. The one right there by the indicator on the left is 0, all right? So we're just doing initial timing right now, and I'll show you the gauge we're idling right now at 650 RPM or thereabouts, and that's set at 10 degrees. So at 10 degrees, I'm lining up with my 0 mark. All right, if I adjust my timing light back to 0, then we'll be lined up with my 10 degree mark, okay? Let's see if I can find it for you. You can just see my 0 mark, or my 10 degree mark, okay? So while we're focused on the 10 degree mark, I'm going to go back to 10 degrees. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, now we're back lined up for the 0 mark. What I'm shooting for is 30 at 3,000. So we're going up now, okay? 20, 22, 27, 30, 32. And because I was at 32 and I want to try something different, I'm going to 34. Now there's no way I can rev this up and show you all at the same time, so I'm going to reset the camera and you'll have to take my word on it. Alright, I think I'll use a unibit to drill a hole for that bung. So there's there's a solid 1.5 steps bigger than the inside diameter there, so that leaves me plenty on the outside to weld that. So I think that's the right choice. I got a little pilot bit in the drill. Let's see about drilling that exhaust. Alright, when you're doing this, make sure you can get a welder in there too. So I've picked a spot right in here where I can get a drill in there, but still get a welder in here and get all, welded all the way around. Again, we're between the 12 and 3 o'clock position, and that should work good. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but we'll get in there. Going up a minute higher. Alright. Might have been easier just to order a hole, but now we can drill one here. That's a joke, by the way. So I've got the bung clamped in place, but to be really sure it's in the right spot, I'm going to cruise around this thing with a Sharpie, and then we'll pull it and make sure that it was in a good spot. And now we have a reference line to put it right back. I think it's in a good spot, but the last thing we need to do is be right on the edge or something trying to weld this thing in place. Oh, look at that. That was good. Maybe not perfect, but it's way good. I'll run it just a tad forward. To be perfect. There we go. All right. Next thing to do, we weld that thing in place. What do you think? It's gonna be nice. Okay, I'll check back with you. All right, let's get this welded. Hard to get my head up in there. Alright. I got her done. I don't like upside down Lily, but get it. Turn the gas off. So then, might say that was the hard part of it, but it wasn't really that bad. Probably don't need that clamp no more. All right, we got that done. Let's move on. I actually have to run, take my doggy to the vet, and I'll be back in a little bit, and we'll continue. All right, we got the O2 sensor installed. It's all tight. I ran the wire up where I can get at it from under the hood. So we put the truck back down, routed it through that section of the frame right there, kind of tied it off to the other lines. Should be in good out of the way, out of the heat, out of moving parts' way, and we'll work the other end of that into the cab, and we'll be good. While I'm under here, I'm going to change the oil, and we're going to cut this exhaust off. I've been wanting to do this for a while, next time it was on the lift. So I made this cardboard template to kind of simulate a straight line, so I can kind of cut that off straight with the truck. So I kind of went around it with a Sharpie. You can kind of see there. I'm going to cut it off with a death wheel on both sides, and that'll be that. I've been wanting to do that for, well, since I built the exhaust, but was kind of waiting for the next time it was on the lift, and then actually remembered to do it. So let me get those cut off real quick, file the edge, and we'll get the oil change. We'll get this back down, and we'll get that cable routed inside the cab, and yeah, we'll put the gauge in and so forth. Here we go. Alright guys, we got the wiring into the truck. We got the gauge mounted under the dash. I've got this gauge panel almost removed because I got wiring back there to make up the hot in the ground. So this is the wiring call out. So black ground and red positive. That's pretty much it. So I have a switched positive on the other gauges. We'll use that. The green, the orange, and the white are for various outputs, which we're not using. So I'm just going to clip these wires off, tape them, fold them back and tape them to the harness, and do that. Then I'll pull this gauge panel out. I've got these rocker switches that I had bought that came in after I had mounted that thing. So I'd actually only put 2 of the 4 screws back in, waiting for these. They've been here for months. But anyway, now it's time to put those in when I pull that thing out of there. Whether I hook any of them up to anything or not, irrelevant for the moment. We'll just get them put in there and fill those holes that I made so long ago. So let's get this thing hooked up. It's getting late in the day. I'm not sure. I'll probably try it out, but we'll finish up the installation and the video in the morning. And I'd really like to take this thing out for a drive tomorrow, like a serious drive. Like, throw in an extra quart of oil and a gallon of antifreeze, that kind of drive. And make sure my AAA card's in my wallet drive. And just give it a good shakedown. So I think it's ready for such a thing. Let me show you what else I got done. It's one of my exhaust tips. You want to see the other one? So there's the other one. Looks good, doesn't it? Kind of parallel to the truck. That was the whole idea. Yeah, good job, Glenn. For a death wheel cut, anyway. Wasn't perfect on the other side, as you might imagine. Yeah, those gauges will look good in there. I do have a vacuum gauge coming, I think I told you, but it's on a slow boat from China. Sometimes I'm just so freaking cheap. And again, I'm hunting for a clock that fits the other hole. And we'll get that put in when we find one that's not $100 or something. What else? Got the oil changed. Actually had a Motorcraft oil filter. A bunch of them sitting on the shelf from various other places. So I think this thing's getting kind of ready for, you know, super fine tuning on that carburetor, right? It's this air fuel ratio gauge is really all part of dialing this thing right in and understanding where it is. When I think I mentioned when I pulled the plugs out, they were burning real clean. They were real sooty, and when I pulled them out, they were real clean. So at first I thought this thing might be running rich. I'm guessing now it might be running lean. Boy, we want to be sure it's not running too lean. But we'll be able to look at the air fuel ratio throughout the throttle positions, you know, from an idle to cruising to, you know, getting on it a little bit to wide open throttle, and really be able to dial that carburetor in. I'd like to do it for all the reasons you would think, you know, just simple drivability to ultimate performance to ultimate fuel mileage, right? Just because it's a, you know, the engine's just a little warmed up and, you know, it's got a 4-barrel carburetor on it, doesn't mean it has to get 8 miles to the gallon. And the way I drive it, that's pretty much what it's getting, if that. So why can't it get 15? I think it can. I think it could get 17. I think it could get 20 on a good day if I could ever drive it that nice. That's probably the biggest card we haven't figured out how to play yet. Anyway, so let me finish up the wiring, and we'll fire this thing up either yet today or in the morning, and we'll see with that AFR gauge. Hopefully we're in the 14, 15 range. 14.6, 14.7 is where the world thinks is perfect. That's 14.6 kilograms of air per 1 kilogram of fuel. Yeah, that's what it is, something like that. And I found a chart that, I don't know if it's useful or not, we'll look at it tomorrow. I'll show you what it says, but basically in the RPM range, or how much power you're making, gives you maybe an optimum air fuel ratio to shoot for. All right, let's get this thing done. Well, we're fast forward to Wednesday morning, and the vacuum gauge arrived. It's got a really dark smoked, in fact, you can't even see through it on the camera, can you? The lens, but hopefully it lights up bright enough to see it. So we'll be able to put this in. I got the dash door apart. We're going to make these last electrical connections this morning. Oh, there you go. Got a little bit of light there. So yeah, we got the vacuum gauge. Woohoo! Great timing. So let's run this vacuum line out there. We'll put it then into a manifold vacuum, and we'll get that gauge hooked up. All right, let's do it. All right, we got them wired in. It's ready for testing. There we go. I know they got to warm up for a bit. That's how the sensors work. Let's fire this up. after like 5 minutes, I was told. I'll bring you back when it warms up. Well, gang, now's a good time to read the instructions, which will tell me that there's a whole setup and program. You have to tell this thing what kind of fuel you've got and all that kind of jazz. So we'll do that separate video. We got it installed. That's the point of today. And we're ready to program it and take it for a drive. So, gang, I appreciate you watching, commenting, subscribing. Hit the thumbs up on the way out the door. And we're going to do a lot more with this truck, a lot of fine-tuning now that we got these gauges installed. And I'll be happy to show you what I've done. I don't really do, how-to videos, but, I'm doing them on my own, getting through these one at a time, with a goal in mind to really make this truck really, really run, and just come along for the ride and see what I've done, and then draw your own conclusions and do what you want to do. That's the way we want to do it. All right, gang. Appreciate it. Catch you next time.